News 10 NBC at 6 starts with your First Alert weather now.
I am First Alert meteorologist Stacey Pengen up on the News 10 NBC Sky Deck, and you know it's a little cool, as it should be for this time in November, but it's been a beautiful end to the day. Take a look at some of our current numbers right now, and most of us are hanging out within a few degrees of 50, 49 in Batavia, Leroy, 50 at the Rochester Airport, Greece, one of the warm spots, sitting at 52 degrees right now. Forecast through the rest of the evening is nice and quiet. We are green on the threat tracker. We are clear in the skies. In fact, a mainly clear sky, lots of stars, and temperatures slowly sliding back through the 40s. But that's it. The wind is going to start to pick up, and that's what you're going to notice on Friday, along with a good deal of sunshine. Show you what the weekend is looking like, and it's a mixed bag at this point. Coming up.
In-depth, investigative. This is News 10 NBC at 6.
We will find room and we will take care of all of the patients.
Preparations are paying off. That's the attitude from first responders today after dozens of people were injured when a bus driving through Monroe County flipped over. It happened around 7 a.m. This Flixbus you can see in the background here, headed from New York City to Niagara Falls, rolled over. 28 passengers were on board.
Investigators are trying to piece together what caused that crash since there were no other vehicles involved. And we have team coverage of the crash. Berkeley Breen was at Strong Hospital earlier today, where many of those victims ended up after the crash. But first, Jen Lukey is live at the scene on 490 to break down what we know about the crash itself. Now, Jen, the bus driver has now been charged, right?
He has been ticketed, Deanna. Investigators say the bus driver was tired, he was speeding, he was changing lanes unsafely, and he wasn't wearing his seatbelt. He was issued 4 tickets late this afternoon, and the investigation is continuing. The initial 911 calls came in right around 7 a.m.
At least 6 on the ground, a bunch of walking wounded. I would say we probably need at least 10 ambulances and maybe some sort of heavy wrecker.
Turns out even more resources were necessary. All 28 people on board, including a child, were transported to area hospitals.
We ended up using 18 ambulances, which for this area is incredible. It's an incredible response.
First responders from across the area worked together to triage the passengers, many of whom were able to get themselves out of the bus, but were walking around disoriented on the side of the highway.
The fact that there were people out walking along 490, and of course you got a bus turned over on the side, you got people possibly trapped, we don't know who's on the bus yet. It was that surreal moment, you know, you train for these things, but when you pull up and actually see a bus flipped on its side and people literally walking in a state of confusion on the side of the road trying to figure out what just happened to them as they were just thrown about inside a bus, right? So it was surreal.
At the moment, the driver is cooperating with the investigation. The sheriff's department says there are no signs he was impaired by drugs or alcohol, and it does not appear any other vehicles were involved or triggered the accident.
We're going to take the bus back to a secure impound where that will continue with the investigation. It'll go through a complete and thorough mechanical inspection to make sure that it's up to standard and all of the safety requirements, everything, to make sure that the driver was performing all of their tasks as needed according to New York State DOT regulations. So this will be a lengthy investigation.
The driver, I'm told, has more than 20 years experience behind the wheel. And again, he is cooperating with the investigation. Right now, investigators are going through that bus with a fine-tooth comb. They are inspecting it to see if there were any mechanical or technical issues. And they are in communication with the bus operator, who has sent someone from Massachusetts, where they're based, here to Rochester. And they're going over safety and security measures, hours on the road, that type of thing. So they have a full idea of what may have happened here. And Brett and Deanna, before I send it back to you, I just want to say, in addition to the driver who was actually administering CPR and first aid on someone when first responders arrived, a number of passengers who happened to just be passing by on 490 stopped to try and help and do whatever they could as well. So, you know, obviously this is a terrible situation, but could have been much, much worse.
Wow. Definitely, no doubt about that. Thank you so much, Jennifer. 13 passengers, including the one critically hurt, went to Strong Hospital.
And Chief Investigative Reporter Berkeley Breen talked to the doctor who took care of them.
As of mid-afternoon, there was still one person in surgery. That was the passenger who was critically injured. You're going to hear from the head of emergency medicine here at Strong say that others had significant injuries and other passengers would be able to get out of the hospital tonight. We learned that the passengers are from around the world. 12 of them were trapped in the bus after it rolled over and slid 600 feet down 490. The other passengers were found wandering around the crash site after they escaped through the emergency hatch on the roof. The county secured a hotel for the passengers who are out of the hospital and any family members who come here trying to get them. There are 14 people at the hospital right now. The head of ER at Strong says they're dealing with head injuries and body injuries and injuries to people's arms and legs.
One of the patients is very critical and has been in the operating room. There are a couple other patients with significant injuries, other patients with moderate injuries, and then a number of patients that will be discharged from the hospital.
Visit Rochester stepped up, identified and secured a hotel that we've been working with individuals from this morning to house until they can be essentially so they can get a plan to get home. Also, those who are waiting for loved ones to be released from the hospital as well, they have a place to stay. And those who are being released from the hospital, as they're released, will be able to go to this hotel as well while we look to figure out how to reunify them with their families.
11 passengers went to RGH, 4 of them went to Unity. Rochester Regional Health, which owns both of those hospitals, says some of those passengers, passengers and now patients, have been released from those hospitals and they're at the hotel now. We do know from the sheriff's office that none of the passengers on that bus were wearing their seatbelts. At Strong Hospital, Berkeley Breen, News 10, NBC.
The bus company WHEC put out a statement on the crash saying, in part, quote, "Our team is actively working with the bus operator to understand the details and provide necessary assistance to passengers."
New at 6, a really close call on a New York highway. You have to see this. Take a look at this video. This is on I-81 near Whitney Point. Oh, the highway worker just inches away from that truck as it slams into a work truck pulled over on the side of the road. The Department of Transportation says no one was seriously hurt. The DOT wants to remind drivers, if you see a vehicle on the side of the highway, work vehicle or not, slow down and get into the other lane if you can. It may just save someone's life.
Rochester police have arrested 2 people they say stabbed one person and shot another on East Main Street late last month. This is video from the scene. Investigators say the 2 victims were hanging out when Raquel Quinn showed up and began to argue with one of the victims. Quinn left and then returned with her 19-year-old son, Christopher Bermudez. Police say Quinn and Bermudez stabbed one victim and shot the other. Police took both of them into custody earlier this week. During the investigation, police discovered 2 weapons, including this assault rifle-style weapon. They also recovered this shotgun, which police say Bermudez stole. In Brighton, crews have repaired a water main that caused the ramp from East Avenue onto 490 East to be shut down. Our photojournalist captured this scene around 3:30 this morning with water rushing onto the highway near Penfield Road and East Avenue. A nearby high-rise apartment was impacted by the break. Things were cleaned up around 8:30.
In Wayne County, a Palmyra man has pleaded guilty to child pornography charges. John Aldrich is facing up to 30 years in prison and a $250,000 fine for production of child pornography. The investigation started in March after authorities learned the 54-year-old was sexually abusing a 14-year-old on a weekly basis for more than a year. Sentencing is scheduled for next March.
And a City of Rochester employee has pleaded guilty to grand larceny. Investigators say Anthony Hall was a volunteer for the Coalition of Northeast Associations, or CONEA, a nonprofit which addresses issues like crime, housing, and youth development. They say he used a debit card belonging to CONEA to transfer money to his own Cash App without the organization knowing for nearly a year. Hall will be sentenced to 1.5 years in prison, and he'll have to pay back more than $33,000.
It's become a local hockey tradition.
The Amherst are planning a night where they go for goals and dollars to beat cancer. We'll tell you when you can catch that game next.
And if you drive by the RBTL, you'll notice something different out front tonight, but it's just the start of a much bigger project. We'll explain.
And I am tracking a snowstorm. No, not for us. Pump the brakes, not for us, but I am tracking one that will bring something to us. I'll show you what that is and when after the break.
A new look for the WHEC Theater in Rochester. A flashy new LED sign was revealed outside the East Main Street entrance this afternoon.
It's the first step of Project Restoration, a 5-year, $65 million plan to revitalize the theater. The restoration plan also includes widened hallways, a new bar and lounge area, and elevator access to the second floor. RBTL CEO Arnie Rothschild says the restored venue will benefit both larger and smaller productions.
But for smaller arts groups to rehearse or perform, there's never been those spaces. In our plans, we're restoring multiple different size stages for rehearsals and entertainment, and we'll do multiple venues.
Phase 2 will begin next summer with plans to restore several more historic spaces, both inside and outside the building.
And speaking of the RBTL, they're getting ready to kick off the holiday season. The Nutcracker Magical Christmas Ballet is returning to Rochester. The ballet is the largest touring production of its kind, featuring dancers from all over the world. You can catch the performance at the WHEC Theater this Saturday. Well, it started the day out just a little bit cloudy, but ended with a whole lot of sunshine.
We sure did. Let's check in with Stacy, get you caught up on that first alert forecast. Stacy?
Yeah, it's not a bad one. We saw improvement through the day today, saw a beautiful sunset. Check this out. It's just what's left of the clouds from earlier today, but they are long gone. There goes the sun, by the way, 4:53. Sunset this afternoon. Can I call 4:53 this afternoon? It's not 5 o'clock. But down it goes, and it was a lovely end to the day. Nice and calm and a clear sky, which is where we are right now, and it is where we will begin your Friday. But you're going to notice the wind tomorrow. It's going to be out of the west-northwest, gusting anywhere from 30 to 35 miles an hour at times. Saturday, cool, but very nice with loads of sunshine. So the theme here is a good deal of sun so far. Sunday starts off fine, but then we're going to start to see some rain moving in by, I would say, Sunday afternoon. So salvageable in the morning, at least at this point. Here's how it all plays out. Wind gusts 30 to 35 miles an hour on Friday. This is especially during the afternoon as that front continues to move through and pull down that cooler Canadian air. Nice start to the weekend. Saturday's looking great. Sunday turns wet, but as I mentioned, it is not a washout. This is the snowstorm I was teasing you with, telling you I was tracking a snowstorm. I am, and I'm tracking it because this will head our way. It's what will bring us our rain on Sunday, but it is cold enough for snow, and quite a bit of it in parts of the Rocky Mountains, parts of New Mexico. For us, we are waiting on this cold front, and you can barely pick it out here. Not much moisture associated with it at all, which is good for us to end the work week. 50 degrees, clear sky right now. Wind is calming down, although it's going to turn out of the southwest and pick up just a little bit, which means our temperatures won't be allowed to drop off all that much. I think mid-40s into early tomorrow morning. Again, a beautiful start to the day, mostly sunny sky. There's our cold front, pushes through with a brief uptick in cloud cover. And of course, the wind's picking up a little bit, but watch how we already start to clear things out by Friday afternoon and evening. This sets us up for a really nice start to the weekend, although a chilly start to the weekend. I have us well into the 30s on Saturday morning. By the afternoon, we're holding in the 40s. We're going to try to hit 50. I just don't think it's going to happen. Much less wind and a good deal of sunshine. Sunday also starts off on the chilly side. We're going to make our way through the 50s with, again, a dry start, afternoon showers, and a little bit of rain developing as well. Monday, a lot of that clears out, maybe a stray shower or two for Veterans Day. Tuesday and Wednesday at this point are fine, with our next system probably working in by the end of next week. At this point, I have it as rain for us. I do not have snow yet in the forecast.
Wow.
All right, we're getting through November.
Yes, we are.
Oh, you just
Keep
jinxed it.
marking
Yes, yeah,
Just
he did,
jinxed
didn't he?
it.
I did
Didn't
jinx
he?
it. I'm sorry. All right, Stace, thanks. The Rochester Amherst announced today the team will host its annual Hockey Fights Cancer Night on Saturday, November 16th, when the team hosts the Laval Rocket at the Blue Cross Arena.
The night raises money for the cancer support community at Gilda's Club. The initiative has raised more than $32 million for cancer support across the American Hockey League since 1998. The Amhersts will sport some special lavender jerseys during the game that night. Coming up in sports, previewing some semifinal action in high school football.
And the Sabres return to the ice against an in-state rival. What head coach Lindy Ruff wants to improve on. That's next.
Now, News 10 NBC Sports with Matt Majinski.
We are down to the final four teams. Football sectional semifinals start tomorrow.
And after an upset-heavy first round, one team is looking to continue their Cinderella run. Right, Matt?
Yeah, that's right. You know, there were a few unexpected results in the first round of sectionals. One of them was also the game of the week. Brockport held on in double overtime to knock off 2-seed and defending champion East. And now the Blue Devils are going to face off with 3-seed Canandaigua. That'll be for a trip to the championship. And on paper, yeah, Brockport's probably underdogs again. In week 7 of the regular season, Canandaigua beat them 41-7. It wasn't even close. But the Blue Devils have a message. That was week 7. It's a different team now, and they're ready to play 48 minutes and hope for a different result.
East is an amazing team. Canandaigua's right up there with them. And showing, sort of using it, like I said, as fuel that we can beat these better teams. Like, even though there's a lot of people might not believe that we could because of how we performed the first time.
I think our confidence grows each and every game. You don't want to judge your team the first week or, your first loss. We're still playing.
Sabres take on the Rangers tonight at Madison Square Garden, one of the toughest teams to score on. Rangers have a really good defense, and that's kind of been a problem for the Sabres. They had a stretch last week where they only averaged 2 goals per game. But on Tuesday against Ottawa, a little bit different. Buffalo seemed to figure some things out with 5 goals. Head coach Lindy Ruff likes the direction everything is headed in.
I didn't expect us to struggle scoring as much as I did. I think there was games where we left points out there that we played really well and didn't finish, which is probably the part I didn't expect. But I think we're getting our game in a pretty good place right now. When I've looked at where we've been and where we started to where we're at now, I like where our game's at.
That's a 7 p.m. start tonight.
All right.
We'll be right back with a final look at the First Alert forecast.
It has been a record-breaking year for Crime Stoppers' K-9 initiative. The organization says they raised a total of $42,000 for K-9 units to give to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, as well as multiple local police departments in Irondequoit, Greece, Brockport, and Rochester.
All right. Get a final check of the forecast. We got some wind coming in tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's nothing crazy. We don't have any headlines, advisories, but it is something that you will notice, and it'll make leaf cleanup maybe a little more difficult if you're working against it. Wind will be out of the west tomorrow. Temperatures holding in the 50s, gusting to near 30.
You can always hope the wind is working with you.
Exactly.
Blowing it out in the street.
Right.
Thanks for making us